Excellencies, dear Ministers, Members of Parliament. I would also like to start by sincerely thanking organizers, initiators, and Sweden in general for this sincere and very important support for the Baltic states before and these days as well. And hopefully in the future this kind of current relationship will continue. I see I would ask here on the panel to partly comment on what we heard during the keynote speeches and also to offer our own reflections on the topic, in particular on the present and future of Baltic-Russian relations. I have three observations to make. First of all, I think it's difficult to overstate the importance of democracy in Russia. I know that this may sound like an obvious observation, but what we heard before, what happened 20 years ago, the Democrats in Russia were crucial, as speakers already noted, for the events that took place in the Baltic states and what followed afterwards. I think this can be equally said at the moment, and I think it will, to a large extent, determine bilateral relations between each Baltic state and Russia in the future. So anything which supports democratic developments in Russia, I think, should be supported by the Baltic states and by the European Union in general. My second observation concerns Baltic states' policies inside the EU and NATO. I think in addition to all the economic, security and political benefits that have been acquired by joining these Western organizations like EU and NATO, one of sometimes overlooked advantage for the Baltic states was the possibility to Europeanize or Euro-Atlanticize their bilateral relations with Russia. And this has been quite extensively used, I would say, by the policymakers in the Baltic states, though to a different degree of success, I should say. We can remember different instances of how Lithuania, for example, attempted to Europeanize some bilateral issues in 2008, when the debate between the EU and Russia on renewal of partnership, cooperation and partnership agreement was started and intensified. We can have other instances of, for example, Estonia bringing into the agenda of NATO the cybersecurity issues, and I think this was quite consistently done and in line with the overall emphasis on e-governance, e-issues in general in Estonia. So energy is another field where we can have a lot of evidence of the Baltic states trying to bring what concerns them in their bilateral relations with Russia into the European Union agenda. I should say that probably there were some surprises for the Baltic states politicians that EU as an organization is quite different from particular member states' policies, and that there are very different policies among European Union member states towards Russia, and that it can be very difficult and time-consuming and sometimes even impossible to find consensus among all the member states. There were also occasions, again in the energy policy area, where I think domestic inconsistencies in the Baltic states of policies being postponed, being changed after new elections, they also obstructed the effectiveness of these efforts to Europeanize our bilateral relationship with Russia and to increase the bargaining power of our countries vis-à-vis Russia. So I think there is already quite a lot to learn from the 7 years of experience in the EU and NATO. And I think one of the conclusions that can be drawn is that we should continue looking for the allies that have similar understanding and similar interests to the Baltic states. And this again points to Nordic-Baltic cooperation in the first place. I think Baltic energy market interconnection plan is a particularly important case which should be pursued whatever happens in the Eurozone, in the EU, in its financial perspective debate, because this is likely to integrate more our economies, and this will make our interests more similar in the future. It's important to have Germany, Poland together in this respect. So I think this points to the closer cooperation among the partners which are understanding and which are supportive of the Baltic states' concerns and the interests in Russia. At the same time, I would say that the Baltic states themselves will become more confident in their bilateral relations if they have a choice of supply in the energy policy area. And this is, again, pointing to the importance of the Baltic energy market interconnection plan. And my third point is on what has already also been referred to by Mr. Lukyanov in particular as the declining attraction of European Union and in general the European model. There is a long tradition of debates on what is European model. Of course, we can point to liberal democratic values, to the market economy and things like that, but as you know, there are also people who point to the existence of continental Anglo-Saxon and Nordic models, to Southern European model. So the question is, which is this European model that we talk about? I remember when there were discussions on Services Directive in the European Union in 2004, 2005, in France in particular, people were talking about the need to preserve what they call European social model. I think this is a synonym, a phrase which actually means that we don't want more competition. Is this the European model? I'm not sure. Nordic countries, on the contrary, as you know, are one of the most open countries in the world. So I think what the Baltic states can do in this really crucial times in the European Union is to bring back essential features of what are important for the European model. Minister Lahr mentioned the rule of law. I think what we see in the Eurozone is very much linked to the fact that some countries just don't respect the rule of law in terms of Stability and Growth Pact rules. And I think what the Baltic states can do constructively in this respect is to bring back these essential features of what we see are the crucial features of the successful European model, or whatever we call it. And I think model can work only if it is implemented properly. If it's not implemented, then we can't really talk about some supposed unified European model. And I think this is important to remember. Thank you very much.